咁但係咧，今次就多謝法律顧問咧，就幫我。
We're grateful to the legal advisor for helping us to vet the regulation in relation to Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Very in great details, and we're going to go through the legal advisor's correspondence with the administration. Present this afternoon, we have Ms. Carol Yuen, Deputy Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Mr. Sam Hui, PAS from the same bureau, Ms. Angie Lee, Senior Government Counsel from Department of Justice, and Ms. Michelle Fung from the same department. Ms. Yuen, can you please walk us through the paper? We'll first deal with the one on Kuwait first, and then Korea, and then Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you. Thank you. We'll first brief you on the background for UN sanctions of Kuwait. Kuwait is a country in South Africa, and since 2004 it's been in a civil war. So the Security Council of the UN has imposed a number of sanctions covering tourism, financial services, and importation of arms and so forth. And in Côte d'Ivoire, we have introduced a number of new sanctions, including the embargo of diamonds. So in 2014, we introduced a new regulation, which is very similar to 537 cap B, very similar. Our trade volume with the country is limited. It ranked number 29th in terms of volume of trade with Hong Kong, and only $10 billion in trading volume, and therefore it is not going to affect Hong Kong to a large extent. I'll now give the floor to my colleague for a more detailed introduction. Thank you. Yes, we have prepared a markup copy for to facilitate your scrutiny. If you don't mind, perhaps we can refer to the actual text. Before we go into that, the legal advisor has written a letter to the administration, one on d'Ivoire and the Côte d'Ivoire, and the other on the KT. So perhaps the RK. So perhaps we deal with the part of the letter on Côte d'Ivoire first. Thank you. Chairman, we have written to the administration, paper CB 1330-1415/01, and the administration has provided us with a reply, and the paper number is CB 1330/1415/02. On this, we have two questions. Two questions. First, Mr. Hui just told us that cap 237DE is a bit different in terms of the drafting. For instance, in section 4, if members are interested, please refer to the annex in the legislative brief, Annex E. Let us set out the differences. It's on page 9 of the English text, and it's Section 4. And Chinese text also Section 4, but the relevant marked up copy is not paginated. The previous wording used is a belonging or owned or controlled by. But now, yes, the new phrase is belonging to or owned or controlled by. And according to the administration, this is to be in alignment with the wording in the UNSC resolution. And then it's also used in similar regulations, and so they have adopted this new approach. If need be, the administration can supplement. Thank you. I have nothing more to add, but as pointed out by the legal advisor, we have just followed the wording used in the resolution. Well, we've already said this when we have to legislate to honor our international obligations. The administration may just copy directly from the relevant text, and we have the view that there should not be a direct copy. But of course, we're talking about sanctions introduced by UN. We can do nothing about it because we do not have the power to amend it. But if we are talking about local legislation, please do not set any precedent and do not change our usual convention. And this is the view of the Council all along. Mr. Martineau, perhaps because of the expanded scope, because owned or belonging to is different, but now the term is in control. So this is expanded. The scope is wider than own or belonging to or held by. So perhaps the resolution has expanded the scope of sanctions, and we have to follow that. Yes. When we ask the administration, it will not explain to us in great detail. It will just tell us that is a direct duplication of the text. I hope the administration can tell us what is the policy intent. If it is to follow the exact wording of the UN resolution, of course we cannot amend your regulation. We have to accept rather reluctantly this new drafting. And I think Mr. Martineau is very correct. It's because of the different drafting with different scope. Yes. To implement SC UN resolutions in Hong Kong, this is our international obligation. So we have no choice but to follow the exact wording of what's in the resolution to give effect to the sanctions or measures. So because the scope is widened, we have to follow it, and it will be incorporated into our regulations. Perhaps I should explain to members. For many terms of this council, we have said that there is no need to directly copy the Chinese text of an international convention unless we agree to the intent. But we do not have any power to amend the principal ordinance. I don't quite understand what is meant by the policy intent. As far as I know, we are not a member of member state of the UN, and therefore we don't have any power to change the policy intent of the resolution. we do not have any separate or independent policy intent per se in Hong Kong. No, Mr. Liu, we can do no more, no less than our international obligations. But when we implement the sanctions, there is no need to directly copy from the relevant resolution, while the administration thinks differently. And in reply to our legal advisor's letter, the reply is very simple because it is so drafted in the resolution. Instead of telling us that the scope is widened by the UNSC. Now, if it is the case, then we do have to the obligation to widen our scope. Mr. Mlangxing, I'm a bit confused. We're just told that they have just directly copied from the UNSC resolution. Now we're talking about the Chinese text, and the chairman talks about our convention. I think we are implementing sanctions. How can we not follow the interpretation of PRC of this resolution? Because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have the power to determine the Chinese text, and if we intend to have a different text, what will be the impression created? I hope my remarks can be recorded. Well, I have no confusion here, and I'm grateful to Mr. Liu for giving us such a clear explanation. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Chairman. In Taiwan, Hong Kong, and PRC, I think different terminologies are used. Of course, we have to implement UN resolution 100%, but take the SFC Securities and Futures Commission's example, there can be different versions of translation for Hong Kong mainland and Hong Kong to make it reader-friendly. If there are established renditions, Chinese renditions in Hong Kong already, then I hope we can stick to our own established renditions. For terms that we do not have any established renditions, then of course we can consider using the commonly used renditions, because it is in fact rather common for us to see 3 different Chinese texts adapted for Taiwan, PRC, and Hong Kong. You can refer to SFC documents. I've also got a glossary from the SFC, the same English term, but with different Chinese terms for the 3 different places. So I hope this point can be recorded for members' information. Yes. I think Mr. Martinez's understanding is correct. Even the English term is different. The formulation, the English formulation is different. The reason I asked, or the reason this debate has arisen, was because of the administration's reply. Had the administration told us that it was all because of a widened scope of sanctions, the whole discussion would have been much simpler. Dr. Kenneth Chen, I think this is not just about the linguistic aspect. Rather, if the administration has gone for a simpler approach, that is to directly copy from the UN resolution, it will be okay, but we are just concerned about the possible implications. So I hope the administration can give us a clearer explanation. And as the lawmaking body, myself and also some colleagues have asked this question. Now the formulation has changed. Will there be any difficulties in enforcement? Will there be challenges? And are there things to note? Because we might be challenged as to whether we can implement these new resolutions and honor our obligation. I think this is a matter of concern.
Chairman, I think as for the change to use of words, I think you are clear about what's been said. And now is for free inspection, Timothy? Yes. Another point about the another inquiry we made is based on the under Section 29 of a new regulation. For some papers, actually, that in the future, the Director General of Trade and Industry is to make available at his or her office for inspection by the public during normal office hours of the articles concerned. And it was asked that whether there can be other channels for people to access it, for example, on the internet. And the reply we got is that the administration will provide information on its web page. So, members, would you like to get any further clarifications from the administration? Ms. Yun, any response? Yes, with the Office of Trade and Industry, we are trying to find out the best way for people to access the relevant information on the internet. We will follow up on this matter definitely. Thank you. Okay, members, any questions? Particularly members from the trade sector. But I think Hong Kong's trade volume with Côte d'Ivoire is so limited anyway. So, okay, now clause by clause scrutiny. Please go to markup copy in NSE. Mr. Hui or Ms. Yun, can you take us through? Thank you, Chairman. Members, please go to NSE, the markup copy. I will follow the order in the copy and take you through the 2014 regulation and show you the difference between it and the 2030 version. Section 1 on interpretation. In the 2014 regulation, section number is different from that in 2013, so there will be some amendments to reflect the page numbers and section numbers of regulation. For example, on relevant parties, the number 30 is changed to 28. It's a technical amendment only. And in response to 2153 Security Council resolution, we included one new area. As mentioned, specified goods would be the term is used there, and we would also disclose this added element on the internet. Please carry on. 1893 resolution is deleted. And there's also the addition of 2153 resolution for reference. Another technical amendment. So change in numbers and dates. Please carry on. Session 2 and Session 3. These two sessions are about prohibitions. Prohibition against supply, sale, and transfer of certain goods. In the 2014 version, as mentioned before, there are some technical changes, amendments. For example, Section 2.2, bracket 2, has been changed to section number. Please go on. Yes, 3 bracket 2 also that there is a change in section number. Based on the United Nations Security Council 2153 resolution, any reference in 2013 reference about the part about prohibition against importation of rough diamonds has been removed because based on the latest UN decision, the sanction has been lifted. Therefore, we've made the consequential change. Yes. Section 4 in the 2014 regulation is about, in accordance with the latest wording used by the United Nations, the sanctions against funds. The phrase used is changed to owned or controlled, belonging to or owned and controlled. So the new resolution actually uses the word controlled or owned. So as mentioned by the legal advisor, we actually use the new phrase to bring out a new concept. In other UN sanctions regulations, similar changes are made to ensure that the new regulations actually embraces the same concepts. And in regulations in the future, we'll make relevant changes. Yeah, before it is owned or held by, but now is changed to belonging to or owned or controlled. Well, it really, when do we use the new phrase, depends on the actual case. The relationship between those who own the funding and or who control the funding. So there could be a difference in the concept. How do you find the evidence then? It depends on the case. It depends on individual case. Under Hong Kong law, is there this concept of being owned? Funds being owned? Legal Government Council, please. When we draft the amendment, we study the actual implications of owned or controlled. We consider that there could be a possible scenario under which, for example, in the case of trust, maybe the trustee may have an indirect ownership of an asset or fund. So in individual cases, maybe owning would cover this scenario. it's mainly based, well, it's mainly a matter of following United Nations terminology and international regulations, and the fact that there could be various scenarios involved. When we do we have to do the regulation, we need to use the same terminology as the United Nations. But I wanted to ask locally, in our local laws, is there this concept of owned or controlled in our laws? If there are, can you tell us where we can find it so we know under what circumstance is this concept used? I'm just worried that if this concept does not exist in local laws, and yet we bring in this idea, which is not part of our laws, then in the future, well, we may be setting a precedent, and when we vet other local laws, we will need to be extra careful. Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think owned or controlled, these words do appear in our other laws. I can't offhand give you an actual example of a case yet, but if necessary, I can provide you with the relevant information afterwards. Please go on. Okay. Section 5 of the 2014 regulation. Technical amendment again there. Same for Section 6. Part 3. About license. More changes here. In order to comply with the latest UN resolution, to follow the rationale to follow the terminology used, as I said earlier, in the latest UN resolution, a distinction is made between specified goods, which is subject to a different arrangement for license compared to other goods. So in Section 2DE, a distinction is made there between specified and non-specified goods in line with the requirements of the United Nations. So this is what the United Nations has changed. So goods used by its troops can be covered by the license, right? Okay, if no questions, then let's move on. And in the original 2013 regulation, in Section 9, license for importation of rough diamonds, because the importation of rough diamonds, the sanction on that has been lifted. Therefore, the license is also, this provision is also not needed and removed. And in the 2014 regulation, Section 8, as I said, so we've again changed owned by or otherwise to owned or controlled by. Okay, Section 9. Section 9, 10, 11, 12, up to 13, 14, they all involve changes in the numbers, right? In the section numbers, all the way to Section 29. All the changes in the previous these sections are about change in the section numbers. Yes, yeah. In Section 29, as I said, is when I discussed interpretation. When I told you about interpretation, I said that we added this idea of specified goods. That is, they refer to the sanctioned goods in the past. In order to make it easier for people in the trade to find out what these goods are, we included this new section to allow people in the trade to go to the Trade Industry Office to check the list of specified goods. Actually, say in the case of Korea later on, there will also be a similar long list of goods actually covered by or covered in the United Nations documents. Okay, these free access documents. Any question about this? If no, then let's go to the duration. Based on the United Nations resolution, the regulation expires at midnight on 30th April 2015.
畫咗佢。
Well, in the Chinese text, I cannot see the figure 4. I can only see 20145. So next time, please make the printing more legible. And in the explanatory note, deletion of importation of rough diamonds from Côte d'Ivoire, and also change in the phrase owned or controlled. All right. If members have no questions, then I will now go to the regulation related to democratic People's Republic of Korea. Our questions to the administration are more technical in nature. Perhaps we will explain to members when we get to the relevant clause, for sure. And the amendments, I note that in the CS4A's text to us, it said that in March 2013 and May 2014, we received instructions from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to make amendments. However, we're only informed by the administration of such amendments in September 2014. So I'd like to understand how come we have waited until September 2014 when the instructions were given in 2013 and earlier, respectively. Yes, we had to spend more time in preparing the amendments. Now, when we deal with the clauses, we'll explain to you that in this regulation, there is the term luxury goods. As we all know, this term first appeared in 2006 in the relevant resolution. However, back then, the UNSC did not specify what luxury goods were involved. And then in 2013, they were specified as vehicles and also jewelries. So this is the first time this is the term has appeared in a resolution covering DPRK. And luxury goods is also different from arms or ammunition. So we did spend some time in deciding how to specify luxury goods and how to strike a balance between introducing the sanctions and the need of the business sector. We believe that with this experience, should a similar scenario arise, we'll be able to improve on our legislative timetable. Are we happy with the administration's explanation? Now we will go to clause-by-clause scrutiny. G, Annex G. Legal advisor, please remind us when we get to the relevant clause mentioned in your letter to the administration. Thank you. Let's start with Annex G. Interpretation. We have made a few amendments. We have the relevant resolution has clarified the scope of entities. So it has amended the actual scope of entities, and so we have reflected this in the interpretation section. And the interpretation for specified person. In the interpretation section, this is deleted for two reasons. In general regulations covering UN, we will specify a list of people under the sanctions. We've taken this opportunity to align this with our other regulations, and it has something to do with the application of Section 7. So we've decided to shift the definition or interpretation of specified person to Section 7. I think we have had some discussions on whether this is possible. Well, since the start of this sanctions against prohibition against specified persons, has any of them ever entered into Hong Kong? Well, we don't have any in our immigration record, but some might have entered Hong Kong illegally. Well, I believe we found out that some specified persons are actually living in Macau. And then specified arms and specified items, we have made a similar treatment. For specified item, we have moved the breakdown to Schedule 2. So we have moved the definition or interpretation of specified item to Schedule 2. So instead of putting it in the interpretation section, you've decided to move it to Schedule 2. And in the new resolution in 2014, there were additions to this list, and we believe that there might be more additions in the future. So we believe it would be better if we have Schedule 2 to include specified items. Yes, please go on. Luxury goods. As said by the DS in the 2014 resolution, there is elaboration on luxury items, and we have moved this interpretation for luxury goods to Schedule 1. All right, do we have any questions on that? If not, can we go to 2A? No, rather Section 2 first. Oh, my apologies. Yes, please go on. Section 2. The heading is changed. From certain items, we change it to specified items. Because I said specified items is now listed in Schedule 1, and we have new Schedule 1 to cover luxury goods. With this change, specified items would not include luxury items or luxury goods. And therefore, in Section 2, prohibition against supply, sale, or transfer of specified items will not include luxury goods. Luxury goods will be dealt with under Section 2A. Okay, if there are no questions, please go on. There are corresponding and technical amendments in this same section. So the prohibited items will be specified items under Schedule 2. Yes, 2A, please. we have given explanation. This is a new section on the prohibition against supply, sale, or transfer of luxury goods. In the past, prohibition was against nuclear weapons and arms and ammunition. And we believe we cannot treat luxury goods in the same way, because under the UNSC 2014, such luxury goods could be free traded in the market, very different from arms and nuclear weapons. So our worry is, if you use the same approach to prohibit the supply, sale, or transfer of luxury goods, that may bring a lot of uncertainties to the business sector. They are not sure about the possible implications. So, in dealing with luxury goods, we have designed a new mode of control. Perhaps I should elaborate. This is not just about the section itself. It's about the way we're going to regulate luxury goods. For generally prohibited items, if a certain person is found to have violated the relevant provisions in the supply, sale, or transfer of specified items, he has to prove that he is innocent and that he had no prior knowledge that such items were prohibited, and he had no knowledge that such items would be transported to DPRK or people associated with DPRK. This is our scheme of control for such items. But if we apply the same to luxury goods, that may be too draconian, because for general businessmen, there is no way they can tell whether a company or a person seeking to buy such items is in any way related to DPRK. And a company has no right to seek any information on the background of a potential customer. So we believe we have to narrow down the scope of application in two ways. First, the burden of proof will be on the prosecution. If a trader is found to have supply, sale, or transfer luxury goods to persons listed under this section, it is for the prosecution to prove that the person has prior knowledge that such items would be supplied to DPRC. A trader would only be criminally liable if this could be proved. The merit is, if in Hong Kong, if the invoice is not for the products to be shipped to DPRK, then he will not be committing any offense. So if in Hong Kong, if such items are sold to anyone or any company in Hong Kong, and with no knowledge that it would be shipped to DPRK, then the person will not be criminally liable. And if he has no idea that it is in fact a prohibited item, and if he has no knowledge that the luxury goods would be shipped to DPRK, then he is innocent. It's really very difficult to know that it is in luxury goods, because in your schedule you talk about pearl, rubies, emeralds. These are things that cannot be eaten. Silver, of course, silver is not very expensive, but for other items they are very expensive. I think even anyone with common sense would know. Now, if someone speaking Korea, a customer speaking Korean, and then the trader doesn't know whether she's from South Korea or North Korea, it is better. Well, in Schedule 1, we have a list of luxury goods, and we have taken into account a number of factors. In UNSC 2014, a number of items was listed, but it was not exhaustive. So we did have the same question in mind, Madam Chair, when we drafted Schedule 1. If we use a very broad concept, luxury goods, indeed, there will be the query as to whether it is considered a luxury item.
So under this regulation, we need to let the traders know clearly what are covered here. So in Schedule 1, we have listed out the goods involved, luxury goods. Yes, Chairman, you're right. If you look at the Schedule 1 and the items there, normal people will be able to distinguish between, an item which is luxury goods and one which is not. And the sale and transshipment of these goods, the people involved in the sale and transshipment of these goods should actually know. And burden of proof rests with the prosecution to see, whether the person involved knows these, the purpose of shipping these goods. Okay, I think that's about it on this section. In the original regulation, Section 3, like in Section 2, because we have dealt with luxury goods and certain items separately, therefore there have to be changes in some wordings there too. In 3AA, that's a new provision. It is inserted in response to the new provision on luxury goods. And this provision deals with actually the transportation of luxury goods. Under what circumstances are people involved in carriage of luxury goods be held liable legally? We share the same line of thought as in the section concerning the prohibition against supply, sale, or transfer of luxury goods. That is those who are involved in carriage of luxury goods. The prosecution needs to prove that these people knowingly shipped or transported these goods to Korea. That is the luxury goods prohibited by the regulation. Well, airliners would be could be in trouble. If would there be any exemptions? I think Schedule 1 includes jewelry worn on the body. Well, sometimes ships or trains going to North Korea and Hong Kong, people on board those vehicles or ships wearing a diamond, and the ship or the train or the plane operator, would it be liable for breaching the law? Well, but you have to prove that they transported the goods knowingly. that these goods are being shipped to North Korea? Well, we consider the scenario you mentioned, but I don't think that there would be a problem in it because in Hong Kong, ships, trains, there aren't any ships, trains or planes going to North Korea from Hong Kong. Well, there aren't any planes going to North Korea en route, via Hong Kong. If you're going to Hong Kong, would not issue a flying license or permit planes to go to North Korea directly. People will have to change plane in the mainland and also issue a new boarding pass before they can go to North Korea by air. So passengers departing from Hong Kong, even if their ultimate destination is North Korea, in Hong Kong, well, we wouldn't regard North Korea as any destination for Hong Kong passengers. So even if there's someone who goes to Beijing for flight to North Korea, then the airline company will be a different airline company doing that. So in Hong Kong, there aren't any transit journey for that goes to North Korea anyway. Okay, please go on. But maybe the air carrier wouldn't have expected people wearing diamonds, on board the plane to be breaching the law. Well, the next section is about change in relation to the use of specific terms, specified items. In 2094 UN resolution, there's this regulation that the carriage of luxury goods, if the user actually is involved in the foreign or covered by a certain UN regulations, then exemption can be given. Well, traders wouldn't know who or which people are given exemptions in accordance with the UN rule. But if a transportation company or an airline carrier is getting someone to North Korea, then the operator needs to provide some written proof that the person or the party getting the goods is an emissary or embassy stationed in North Korea who will enjoy the exemption. How about Hong Kong's trade volume with North Korea? Is it big? Well, relatively small. Are there many companies in Hong Kong involved in trade with North Korea? Chairman, I think Hong Kong's trade volume is with North Korea is very small. It's just about a little bit more than 200 million a year. So any sanctions actually would have very, very little economic impact on Hong Kong. As we said before, whenever there are new sanctions, we would like the government department to inform trade companies with trade with the sanctioned places subject to sanctions. Yes. Okay. Let me supplement here on luxury goods. The prohibition against the carriage of luxury goods. Apart from carrying out publicity about the UN resolutions, this time we have asked our various departments, including Tourism Commission, to remind companies operating tours to North Korea, tours that actually allow Hong Kong people to go there, indirectly, to remind the passengers that, when they are outside of Hong Kong, say in China, China is also subject to the United Nations Security Council resolutions, so the same rule applies to them, even when they are in China and when they are trying to bring restricted goods to North Korea. So we do we do try to remind potential passengers. Well, You know, there are some study tours to North Korea. I remember one leading academic organized study tours to North Korea. So please don't just focus on tour operators. As far as I know, universities from time to time do organize tours to, study tours to North Korea. So please inform, everyone, those people in the academia who are involved. Yes. For study tours to North Korea, well, they have to be actually conducted through an intermediary. So when we do inform those intermediaries, about the new sanctions and the laws related to them. And our colleagues have also, on this new regulation, liaise with people involved in logistics or import-exports, deals with North Korea. Okay, please go on. Section 4. In accordance with 2094 resolution, this section clarifies the prohibition against procurement of certain items or services by certain persons. We also include the provision on brokering or other intermediary service. And then Section 5, for the same reason, we've included within bracket brokering or other intermediary service who are actually governed by the regulations. 5C is a new provision. The new regulation in the UN resolution concerns nuclear programs in North Korea, and the United Nations body thinks that such programs should not be encouraged. Therefore, any programs under the 2094 resolution, they are prohibited programs. That is, programs that are nuclear or ballistic missile program in nature, or any activity that is prohibited by this regulation. And the new 5C provision lists out the areas prohibited. Any questions? Those in the banking industry, members in the banking industry? I think in other places subject to sanctions, similar element is included. Yes, in other sanctions, there are individual programs that are sanctioned or prohibited, because so these wordings actually, these are like template wordings, right? Yes, for prohibited programs. Yes. Sanction 6 and 7 also include brokering or other intermediary service. Section 7. The last part of it, as I mentioned in the interpretation, we change specified persons to this DPRK related person. We also elaborated on what it means, so that readers would be clear about what the provision is talking about. Any questions? If not, let's go on. Section 8. Changes are made so that, as in the case of Côte d'Ivoire, so we do make a similar change here. In the phrase used. For all these wordings or terminology, do you have templates or standardized versions. I think you can see later on that when it comes to a similar area of prohibition, we'll use similar terminology in the legal provisions. Okay, member? Section 8.
Or rather, 9. Entry of funds. I think about 2 years or so ago, there were funds into Macau, or from Macau to DPRK. Have you got any such record? Are you aware of the progress of the case from diplomatic sources? I don't have information concerning the case. I think I can only provide such information after the meeting, yes. Because the heading of Section 8 is prohibition against making available funds, etc., or dealing with funds, etc. There was an institution, not necessarily a bank, that might have funds going into DPRK, and then it was subject to sanctions by the U.S. I think it was in Macau. Since we are under the same umbrella, that is under the PRC, can you please try to find out particulars of the case to facilitate our understanding? Now, if Mr. Mlang Singh is talking about a case that happened 2 years or so ago, I think it was more than one case. There was it was reported with the name of persons concerned. So can you please give us information if you have any of the relevant cases? And the person concerned or person under this provision would be someone who is a Hong Kong permanent resident and or a body incorporated or constituted under the law of the Hong Kong SAR. And Mr. Mlang Singh was referring to a case in Macau, then I might not have information about the case. I think we want to have information on a similar case for our reference. I'd like to know whether the case will be handled by the local government or together with the PRC government. Because they have to comply with the resolution because of the fact that PRC is a party state to UNSC. So given that Macau is also an SAR like Hong Kong, I think the case might have useful reference for us, so please check. I don't think this is the introduction of a national law to Hong Kong. Rather, we are instructed, we receive instructions from the main authorities, and therefore we have to enact local legislation. However, it is worthwhile to check with Macau to see whether their domestic legislation is similar to ours. For instance, did they also just copy directly from the resolution, or did they have their own legislative formulation and yet is able to honor the international obligation 100%? I think it will be useful information for us. Was it related, Mr. Ao Chung Kit? I have a vague memory. Yes, we are protected by the LC Powers and Privileges Ordinance. I think we are talking about these two names. Well, it's just for information. I don't know whether it's accurate or not, but I saw the two names in press reports as well. Yes, Hong Kong is quite similar to Macau. I don't know whether you will have any difficulty in enforcing the legislation. All right. Section 9. The biggest change here is in this section, we define specified persons. When I explained to members amendment to interpretation, I mentioned this. Specified person would mean people that are not allowed to enter or to make any transit in Hong Kong. So we have moved the definition to this section. And the formulation is similar to that of other two regulations. Yes, please go on. 10A, 10B, no amendment. And then we have new section 10C. In 29.4 resolution, this is a new requirement. All DPRK related vessels now are required to be inspected, and if they refuse to be inspected and left Hong Kong for another destination, then the government of the next destination will refuse entry to the vessel under this resolution unless the vessel is willing to be subject to an inspection. So the obligation is also on Hong Kong. If a certain ship applies to enter Hong Kong waters, and if we know that it has refused to be inspected prior arrival in Hong Kong, will deny entry to such a ship. So enforcement departments in Hong Kong will have the power to either inspect or refuse entry. Yes, there is a new section, and I don't think a similar power is granted in other pieces of legislation in Hong Kong, right? Refusal of entry on the grounds that the vessel has refused to be inspected in another place. Yes, this is something new. But for special inspection by the police, by local enforcement agencies, a refusal of entry to a vessel, this is not a new power. Okay. Section 11 also involve the amendment of held to control. Okay, 12, 13, no amendment. 14, 17, 20, the amendments are of the same nature. It's about power of investigation of ships, aircraft, and vehicles. The amendments are made due to the addition of luxury items or luxury goods. Okay. These are rather standard provisions when it comes to the inspection of ships, aircraft, and vehicles. Now we reach section 31. also rather technical in nature. In Resolution 2094, entities and persons are added in the schedule. The UNSC may designate entities or persons in the order, and so we have added this in the regulation. Okay, please go on. Section 32. For prohibited items, information related to prohibited items is available at our Trade and Industry Department for public perusal, free of charge, because it involves Security Council documents and documents by the International Atomic Energy Agency. The industry may not be very familiar with such documents, so such documents in both English and Chinese are available at the TID. As I said, we are discussing with TID to see how we can make available such documents to interested parties by electronic means or in a more user-friendly way. Yes, and I hope the relevant UN resolutions can also be made available to enhance understanding. All regulations for implementing UN sanctions has got its explanation and also the documents online available. But for the prohibited items, usually it is simple. We just say, for instance, arms or weapons-related items with no elaboration. And the industry will not have any extra information. The UNSC has got a breakdown of such items to prohibit the sale or transfer or supply of such items. So we'd like to let the industry to be informed of such items. Okay. The schedule for luxury goods. As I said, we have an exhaustive list. Items outside the schedule may also be luxury goods, but will not be subject to the prohibition, because we want the scope to be clear to the industry, and will also be guideline for the enforcement agencies. We have made some adjustment in wording from the UNSCR 2094. We have made reference to the description in the schedule to that resolution, and we've also consulted our local industry, and that is how they are described or categorized in our Customs and Excise Department and the logistics industry. And the final outcome is seen in Schedule 1. Take the description for jewelry as an example. If a member of the business sector has to make declarations at Customs Excise Department, then these are the common descriptions or terms they will use. Pearl, is there a distinction between cultured pearl and natural pearl? These are from the Customs and Excise is a name and also elaboration and a code number for declarations. For instance, expensive jewel. And precious metal, the relevant component and specifications can be found in the schedule. Legal advisor, thank you. Regarding the definition and list of luxury goods, we have written to the administration.
The list in the schedule basically is based on the Schedule 4 in the UN 294 resolution. And the electrical brief, the relevant schedule is also mentioned. I think we've noticed two discrepancies in the schedule and our existing laws. First is, based on the United Nations resolution paragraph 23, the definition of luxury goods it includes but not limited to what's listed. But what we have now in this section is luxury goods refer to all that is specified in Schedule 1. So in theory, our local regulation seems to have a narrower scope, but it specifies clearly that we only talk about luxury goods specified in Schedule 1. And secondly, as for the wording, in the United Nations Schedule 4, the listing there, it uses more general words like gems, semi-gems, precious metals, and so forth, expensive metals. But in our schedule here, it lists the various items like diamond, ruby, sapphire, and so forth, silver, gold, platinum, and so forth. And as for transportation item, the United Nations list mentions luxury cars, race cars, and so forth. But in our regulation, it doesn't use the words used in the United Nations regulation. So this is for your members' reference and see whether the administration wants to explain the differences. Yes. So why is it excluding but not limited to? Is now, in our case, a specified list? Yes, Chairman. Just as Mr. Hui said, when we did this list, we hoped to achieve the objective of helping the trade understand clearly what are prohibited. We want to make it very clear to the traders. Therefore, we made reference to the commodities familiar to the trade, and also as mentioned by the legal advisor, in the United Nations Security Council list, it used the word, for example, heavy expensive metals. But under our own system of goods and code, expensive metals cover silver, gold, and platinum. Therefore, we list these three things out to give the trade a clearer idea of what we mean. Because if we only use the term expensive metals, like the United Nations, then the trade may ask, what does it cover? So as for transportation item, the original wording is it's very general. Expensive cars, bracket, mechanical cars, and then colon, public transportation, transportation of vehicles outside of public transportation. So it seems to suggest any vehicles that is outside of the public transportation. But we made reference to our road regulations under which by private cars we mean vehicles carrying not more than 7 people. So we use that concept here. Therefore, we have here the line saying a motor vehicle constructed or adapted for the carriage of not more than 8 persons. Because if we use the original wording, expensive cars, then the train may not be clear about what we mean by that. Therefore, we use this kind of clearer representation for clarity purpose. Thank you. I do have sympathy for your work in drafting the law. Well, there are actually luxury cars that can carry 8 people or more. There can be, cars that are 30 feet long. Even with its own bar inside and where people can have meetings in a car. But I do think that, in implementing laws related to sanctions, it's a very academic exercise, but it's very difficult to implement it in reality. But I think legal advisor just raised a concrete concern. For example, the use of wordings like including but not limited to, but here we have a list that is very specific. You don't have the element of but not limited to. What should we do about that? Chairman, actually, in terms of the concept, we think that the United Nations, its conception of luxury goods, besides what's listed here, it doesn't really have any specific provisions on what constitutes luxury items or goods. And in implementing the relevant sanctions, neither have we received any directions from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs what luxury goods actually intended to mean, in order to give the trade a clear idea of the area of prohibition and also to facilitate implementation of the law. We put down in the list items that can be they're clear to people in the business. So like jewelries. We've also noted that in other United Nations member nations, they dealt with this issue differently because there's no restriction on what types of goods should be classified as luxury goods. Therefore, different countries may have their own different lists. And we've opted for an approach that help the trade understand clearly what the law covers. And so we put down in the list what's mentioned by the United Nations. And those that are not mentioned by the United Nations, we will not add that to the list. So Honda Civic could become a luxury item then. A car that costs only $120,000. Any questions from members? But you still haven't answered the question, why, but not limited to, why that phrase is taken out. We understand that you want to help the trade, find the law easy to understand, but that element is nonetheless missing. If you want to implement international duty, you don't have to just copy the original wordings, but you can, of course, bring out a provision that's practicable in the local context. Of course, we want to make the whole implementation practicable, but I do hope that, of course, we hope you still need that we can't just borrow words from the original provision. Any questions? If not, then please go on. Schedule 2. Schedule 2, the specified items basically actually is based on the schedules, same schedule in the United Nations provision. Same kind of information. Okay, so the North Korea case, this regulation is finished. Thank you, Timothy. And now we move on to the last one, the Libya, a simpler one. It's a simpler one. It'll be quicker than the previous two regulations. Ms. Yuen, can you take us through it, please? Yes. Libya is in North Africa in 2011. Since then, because of the political situation there, the UN Security Council since 2011 has imposed sanctions on Libya, including embargo on the transshipment of arms, financial sanctions, restrictions on flying to the area and so forth. And because of consideration for the threat to world safety, United Nations also passed the 2046 resolution expanding the scope of the sanctions. And we're concerned about the use of and the spread of weapons, arms from Libya. 2174 resolution was passed to expand the kind of entities covered. With direction from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we would implement to the 2146 and the other and 2174 resolutions. We need to make consequential changes to the regulations to reflect the decisions in the two UN Security Council resolutions. Hong Kong has a very limited trade volume with Libya. The total volume just total about 227 million Hong Kong dollars. So the implementation of the sanctions will not pose any major impact on local trade. So my colleague is going to take you through the regulation. Yes, our legal advisors has looked at your draft. Well, this is an amendment that has already come into effect. So I think we may go into detail on certain parts. But I've also noted that the markup copy for Libya is actually right for our age. The North Korea one is critical for us to follow. Please, when you prepare markup copies in the future, please try to make it more easier for people our age to read. Please make the words bigger. I prefer to see bigger words. Just in the North Korean markup copy, the words are a bit small for us. Thank you. Yes, please go to Annex M of the paper submitted to LegCo. I'll begin from the interpretation area. The first amendment is on the definition of entity. This is same as the regulation for Korea. That is, the definition of entity has been expanded. And we put it in the regulation. The next one in interpretation is the 2146 resolution. It's the source of the amendment, therefore we incorporated this into the interpretation. And then 3A, section 3A, is a new provision. As the Deputy Secretary just said, this is in relation to in response to the United Nations Security Council resolution on crude oil from Libya and exchange of crude oil for funds. So this new resolution urges all member nations to issue a prohibition against loading, transport, or discharge of crude oil. 3A, section 3A, is actually a paragraph inserted in relation to that. The content is similar to prohibition against other items. Of course, in the case of Libya, this provision targets at crude oil, and it's a new item. So therefore, we need a new provision here. Okay, 3B 3B. In a reply to the legal advice, we also made an explanation that even though in the local regulation we didn't define the focal point of Libya here, but in the resolution here, there's this statement on the focal point of Libya has certain functions to play, and there's also provision on the interaction between this focal point and the United Nations SC. I think it's made very clear who this focal point is. Focal point on behalf of the Libyan government.
Legal advice, any supplement? Well, we raised this point because the English taxes the government of Libya's focal point and Chinese Libya政府協調人 is quite rarely seen in our legislation. So a reader may not know what's meant by focal point. I think it would be best if a reader can understand from the law what was the target of description, and because this is quite rarely used, so we suggest that in the future perhaps there should be a definition for focal point. So para 3 of the resolution perhaps should be put in to make it easier. And according to the administration, since this term only appears once, there will be no interpretation. But we just now we vetted a regulation with a whole schedule of things. Why is it that in this regulation you do not have any schedule of a similar nature? I don't think people will be clever enough or smart enough to look up UNSC resolution. Ms. Martin-Leo? I think the legal advisor's suggestion is very simple. You just provide a definition in the interpretation section. It will be so much easier, because this is the first time I have seen such a term. Even as a lawyer, I find it difficult to understand, because people will have to refer to resolution 2046, and normal businessmen will not do so. The English taxes focal point. I won't be able to know that focal point means 協調人, a person of a coordinator or coordinating person in Chinese. So I think they need only to provide an interpretation for the term focal point. So can the administration note this? Yes, thank you for your view. We will think about this next time. But all these sanctions already introduced. We are only here to help them to proofread, and any suggestions from us can only be incorporated in local legislation for new rounds of sanctions. No. It will still be useful. It will still be useful. The principal ordinance doesn't allow us to amend the regulations, but our understanding with the administration is in all UN sanctions, although we are not allowed to amend it, we can still vet the regulations so that in future exercises they can incorporate the LegCo's views. Though this is not a question of how many times this term has appeared. Given that this is such an unfamiliar term, I think it will be useful so that you can make the law clearer to the reader. Yes, administration, please note this. But AOs come and go, so a new AO may come about, so we may have to say these again. Okay, thank you very much for your views. Mr. Hui, please go on. 3B. In 3A, we have added provisions on prohibition against crude oil, and therefore in 3B, we have to add exceptions to prohibition under Section 3A. We've already let you know our comment, and all the way to Section 7. Section 7, replacement of the term owned by owned or controlled. As members may have noted, we try to be consistent in to ensure that different regulations will have the same wording or formulation. Please go on. 7A. It's also because of this new prohibition against crude oil and financial transactions related to crude oil. There are sanctions against this as well by UN, so we have added this new section. If it involves crude oil from Libya, then the relevant financial transactions will also be a subject of prohibition. 7B. 7B is here because of 7A is an exception to prohibition under Section 7A. Okay. 8. Section 8. We have a new group of specified person because of the resolution. There aren't any names here. So will it be for the UN or the US to announce specified persons here? Well, it is for UN to announce. Okay. 10A. Section 10A. Again, it is something new. This resolution also contains prohibition against certain services. Libyan related vessels will be denied certain services such as refilling, even if the ship has already entered Hong Kong waters, unless the provisions or the unless the situation are in line with exceptions under Section 10B. Okay, 10C also a corresponding amendment. Targeting vessels that have entered waters of a member state or Hong Kong SAR. The enforcement agency has to prohibit the entry of ships into Hong Kong. Mr. Kenneth, I'd like to know the number of Libya registered ships. And do we have many ships from Libya entering Hong Kong? Mr. Hui, we don't have any statistics, but we for sure do not have too many vessels from Libya because the trade volume itself is small. However, Libya is an important port in this region, so the number of registered vessels may not be too small. But the number of vessels may not be related to trade volume. We have Libya because 10A, prohibition against provision of certain services to certain ships. Because a ship flying a Libyan flag may carry goods not related to Libya at all. And if it wants to enter Hong Kong water, then do we still have to invoke 10A and 10B? Now, I'm not from this sector, so my information may not be entirely correct. I think there used to be quite a lot of ships flying the Libyan flag. Is it the same situation now? Well, 10A doesn't apply to all Libyan registered vessels. Rather, we are talking about a ship designated by the committee under para 11 of Resolution 2146. So we will have the exact names of the ships concerned. So 10A only apply to such ships. Mr. Kenneth Leung, any follow-up? It will be better if you can give us some information, some statistics. Because last month I organized a forum on economic development in Hong Kong. Hong Kong being a place servicing hub for ships. Now it is relevant to my sector, accountancy. I don't want this UN resolution to victimize ships registered in Libya. I hope we will be prevented from providing services to such ships. Legal advisor, do you have any comments? Just supplementary information. Although there is the prohibition under 10A, there are exceptions under Section 10B. So if the ship is to return to Libya, now I am inclined to agree with the administration. Under 10A2, the ship has to be designated by the committee under para 11 of the resolution. First and second, if the ship is returning to Libya, it will not be subject to Section 10A as well. Okay, thank you. We are at clause of Section 13, licenses. Because of the resolution by the UN and also is elaboration on licenses. Okay, Section 14. Having reviewed all resolutions related to Libya, our interpretation is under Section 14, we are going to remove 14(2)(b) because it is not within the scope of licenses. Because it says here, assistance or training is related to protective clothing, including flak jackets, so on and so forth, to be temporarily exported to Libya, so on and so forth. It is related to Section 13 but not to Section 14, and hence this consequential amendment to make it align with the UNSCR. 15, that's the amendment involving owned and held. 19, Part 5, Section 19. Just a change in the numbering. New sections involving prohibition against crude oil. Okay. If we do not have any questions, we go on to Part 7, 38, Section 38. Because of the latest UNSCR, a person or entity which may be subject to the prohibition is added here. And duration, Section 40, and is an update of the duration. Explanatory note.
So we're finished the scrutiny of the Libyan regulation. Thank you, members. Thank you, officials. I know this is quite dull work, but there are actually details that we need to look at. Just to mention some, information that we want to get, including what Inlang Singh said about. So in the case of violation of the regulations, well, so I think there was a case, 10 years ago. You need to gather information about, missing information from the website. 10 years ago. Well, those information was taken away from your website 10 years ago, but that was before the sanction against Libya was imposed. Well, I think it's U.S. government sanctions on Libya. I think by then the two entities had not signed documents, but take a look at the information that was missing from the website, and also on whether similar cases of the use of the terms owned and controlled by in local laws. Please let us know if there are any. And the focal point, if there are some, like new terms like those used, please let us know if there are other, similar provisions with these new terms used. Yeah. So members have made various suggestions. So I think we've all proposed some useful ideas. Thank you all for coming to today's meeting. Thank you, administration. Thank you.